Joe Burrow is injured, and the Bengals are signing not one, but two quarterbacks. Let's get to know the newest members of the Bengals quarterback room and what it means for Jake Browning right now on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into CBT. I'm James Rapien of BengalsTalk.com. Today's video is brought to you by two local sponsors, Rivertown Inquiry, rivertowninquiry.com, the best apparel in the game. If you are looking for shirts that are going to fit, that are going to last, hoodies with the weather starting to change, even though it's hot this week, Rivertown Inquiry is the place to go. Also, our guy Christian Husky at Cincy Klein Realtors. You got to check him out, cincycline.com/chusky. Let's dive into the two new members of the Bengals practice squad. And who knows what the plan is here, but full disclosure, and this is always fun. I did a full video this morning, and it was analyzing the Bengals options. And I mentioned Sean Clifford multiple times. Cincinnati native, was on the Packers practice squad, or was on the Packers roster, and went through training camp with the Packers, was released in August. But Cincinnati native, St. Xavier High School, is someone that when you look at his track record, I was there at his pro day, his local pro day where he was working out for the Bengals. It's like, oh, well, maybe that's an option. He's a free agent. And I never bought the Malik Willis nonsense that was on Twitter. But I did a full video on all the quarterback options, and these two names came up, Mike White and Sean Clifford, both of them. And let's start with Mike White because I think it's the most interesting. The Bengals are signing Mike White to the practice squad. And this is a guy that, one, had success against the Bengals, two, has starting experience. And he's 6'5", 220, 30 years old, veteran quarterback, someone that's been there, done that, is a former fifth-round pick out of from the Cowboys or by the Cowboys. He's out of Western Kentucky and South Florida. But look, he's someone that is 2-5 as a starter. One of those games was against the Bengals when he threw for 400-plus yards and he sliced and diced Lou Anarumo and the Bengals in 2021. He became the first Jets starter since Vinny Testaverde to throw for 400 yards. He completed 37 of 44 passes for 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. He also caught a 2-point conversion. That's the Mike White game. Everyone remembers it from 2021. Really, really frustrating. Joe Burrow praised him after the game. Since then, he spent 21 and 22 with the Jets, 23 in Miami. Last season in Buffalo, was in camp with Buffalo, got beat out by Mitch Trubisky to be the backup, and now is on the Bengals practice squad. I think, don't know, but I think you signed Mike White to be the backup to Jake Browning long term. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's someone else, right? Brett Rapien is on the practice squad as well. Sean Clifford is someone that maybe they're really in on, but I look at this and I look at what they could do and what they could do if something were to happen to Jake Browning. And I think that's probably the route they go. That's probably the route they go is Jake Browning as the starter, Brett Rapien, Mike White, Sean Clifford all compete. And at the same time, with all three of those guys on the practice squad, the moment Mike White is up to speed, I think he's going to be the backup to Jake Browning. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just the vibe. Now, what does it mean? It means Jake Browning is entrenched as the starter. It means that Brett Rapien is competing for that backup spot. And it also means that the Bengals are going to have, by the end of the day, 3 quarterbacks on their practice squad. And so that's going to change. That is not going to stay the same. They're not going to just have one quarterback, Jake Browning, on the roster and 3 quarterbacks on the practice squad. So don't be surprised if they take Mike White and put him on the 53-man when they put Joe Burrow on injured reserve. Maybe they go with Brett Rapien and go that route. I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but what they could do, and this is where it gets interesting, is make one of these guys and put, say, Mike White on the active roster and then make him the emergency third quarterback, and for the next few weeks elevate a Brett Rapien who's been in the system. And then White can be your emergency third quarterback, not count towards your 46-man active game day roster and guys that are dressing for the game and still be dressed just in case. And then Brett Rapien can be your backup. I think that's probably the strategy they go, but I have more thoughts on Sean Clifford, more thoughts on Mike Flight White. And yes, I'll give him that nickname. But let's continue to discuss this Bengals quarterback room coming up next. Today's video is brought to you by Christian Husky. Like I mentioned at the top, check them out. SipsyKlein.com/chusky for all of your real estate needs. Maybe you're relocating. Maybe you're downsizing. Maybe you're thinking about getting a property valuation, or you're thinking about maybe starting the home search. Christian Husky is not just a diehard Bengals fan. He's a real estate expert that is going to help you. Check him out. SipsyKlein.com/chusky. Some other thoughts on this quarterback room. One, I love the addition of Mike White. I really do. I mentioned it on Locked On, and it is out there. It was a video that actually did get released. Mike White makes sense. To me, it's an exciting pickup because do I think he's capable of running an offense in a pinch and getting them out of a game or getting them through a week or two? I do. And there aren't many guys on the street that I think are capable of doing that. I think Mike White is one of those guys. Sean Clifford is intriguing because he's a former 5th-round pick. And for a lot of the reasons why I mentioned the Desmond Ridder signing, why it's interesting, you're talking about a former pick that hasn't worked out to this point, but maybe you can groom him, maybe he can learn the system, maybe he can become a serviceable backup NFL quarterback. And that's what's intriguing about him. That's because he was in the 2023 NFL draft. He's younger than Mike White. He's younger than Brett Rapien. And he's someone that you look at and you're like, all right, well, he's 27 years old. He was the 149th overall pick. He's only appeared in 2 games and he ran the ball. He's technically ran the ball, hasn't thrown the ball. When you look up, he's 1 for 1, for 37 yards as a quarterback. So he's thrown it once. He threw it once as a rookie. But he has more rushing stats. If you look up Pro Football Reference, 3 attempts, and who knows if those are actual attempts or not. I'd have to go back. Regardless, though, it's a boost in an area where the Bengals need it. Because what are you thinking today, ladies and gentlemen? Well, you're thinking, and the Bengals are thinking, how do we bolster our quarterback room enough to where we could survive, not just with Jake Browning, but if Browning goes down and someone else has to go in, or we can get out of a game or get out of 2 games, not the season. Obviously, you can only deal with so much. But if Jake Browning gets dinged in the 3rd quarter of the Minnesota Vikings game, you might be in trouble because these guys are new. But what about 2 weeks from now when they have to play Detroit? Then maybe you're able to sneak out of there and get a win. Or maybe you're able to sneak out of Green Bay with a win. It may sound crazy, but that's how they have to think. And if they can somehow piece this together until Joe Burrow can come back, well, that's obviously their goal, whenever that is, whether it's December, January, it doesn't matter. And so I like these additions. They make sense to me. And it was never going to be Kirk Cousins. I would have made the case to make a move for Jameis Winston. But when I looked at the street free agents, Mike White was near the top of the list for me, and probably at the top of the list. And maybe it's because I think of that 2021 game, or maybe it's because I realized that he would be capable of running the offense. I do think he'll end up being the Bengals backup quarterback. Really appreciate you listening. Appreciate you watching. We have you covered all week long. And by the way, I put out a special video. It's going to come out Tuesday at 2. And if you're listening on any podcast platform, check it out on YouTube because it's a film breakdown of the play that Joe Burrow got hurt on. I've seen a lot of people say Joe Burrow is at fault. Right now, members can watch it and at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, everyone else is going to be able to watch this breakdown. So make sure you check that out because it's important to watch. It's important to understand that play before you make these sweeping conclusions about the Bengals offense or about Joe Burrow, about his play style, all of the above. That being said, I appreciate each and every one of you. And for Andrew Fox-Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Cincinnati Bengals Talk.